Cash Flow Diary Podcast, episode 490.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cash Flow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cash Flow Diary Podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because when it comes down to it, you and I, we wake up every day thinking about the future because that's kind of what entrepreneurs do. We rarely live in the present. We're often trying to build something, make something happen. We have some ideas about what our future specifically looks like, and it usually revolves around a business or building some sort of enterprise or growing your cash flow in various different ways, and that is amazing. However, sometimes we can also feel stuck. Sometimes we can feel stuck because we don't know how to start, and sometimes maybe we have already started because, as I've said before, once you get started, stay started, but now you're at this place where you're trying to figure out what's the next step. How do I grow it bigger? Well, I think today we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot together because I have with me none other than Allison Maslan, and you may be familiar with her from her prior book, Blast Off, the Surefire Success Plan to Launch Your Dreams into Reality. But she's got another one called Scale or Fail, How to Build Your Dream Team, Explode Your Growth, and Let Your Business Soar. Now, all of that sounds great. We're going to find out how to do it. And just in case you don't know, Allison has been in the business game for 35 years, 10 companies, currently the president of Pinnacle Global Network. And that's code for saying she's got wisdom to share, not just knowledge and information. And most importantly, I think you and I are ready to benefit. So let's make sure that you are ready to listen, to learn, and to love Allison Maslan. Allison, how you doing?
So fantastic. Excited to be here.
I'm glad that you could make some time. Now that you are here, I have to ask you the same question I ask everybody else the first time that they're here. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Hulk, Spider-Man, etc. And I tend to think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. Chief among them, that there can be times as an entrepreneur where I can imagine myself, possibly flying around town, using our products and services to save our customers. And yes, maybe I am wearing a cape. At the same time, though, just like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos, trying to earn some pizza money. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers he's got a superhuman ability and gets to choose to use it for good or for evil. So my question to you is as follows. Before Pinnacle, before appearing on CBS and Fox and CNN and the Huffington Post and all of these places, before helping, entrepreneurs build their businesses, before all of your programs and your books and everything that people know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Allison Maslan?
Wow. Well, besides being a business owner at heart, I am actually a trapeze artist.
You're not joking, are you?
No, I'm not joking.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, well, I really fly. Like really fly.
Wow.
Yeah.
How you got to tell, how does that start? Like you wake up one day and say, Mom, I want to be a trapeze artist. And you're like, okay, I'll teach you.
Well, I was a gymnast growing up and I loved going to the circus. My dad used to take me And I had a set of uneven bars in my backyard that I was just hours and hours swinging around. And we go to the circus. I thought, oh, that is the coolest thing ever. And so when I discovered that you could actually do that, I started training with a 5-generation circus family in Los Angeles. And I've been doing that for 20 years.
That is amazing. I mean, obviously I've watched it from the ground, and like, man, I think about how do you get so comfortable being that high is just a whole nother thing in and of itself, but let alone contorting your body and flipping through the air and just stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of trust on a whole different level.
It's so much fun. It is a blast. And I actually fulfilled a dream of mine because almost exactly a year ago, I built a trapeze rig in my backyard.
No. Mm-hmm. Do you invite friends over and say, hey, come over and look what I can do? I mean, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, well, you have to have a few more than one, it's not really, there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do by myself.
Right.
Up there, you got to have a catcher and you got to have someone else on the board. But, now I just walk out of my back door and climb the ladder 35 feet up and start flying.
Okay. It sounds like that's possibly your happy place, like where you go to think and clear your head.
I have a big smile on my face right now, just thinking about it. It definitely, and there's so many metaphors with trapeze and business, but it's, when I'm up there, I am in the present moment. That is the place where, you kind of have to be.
Yeah. I'm like, there's only one moment to be in at that point. Yeah.
So it's great for me. It's like my moving meditation.
Got it. Totally understood. It's safe to say I did not see that coming. So out of the hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs, I got to say that is by far the most unique answer I have gotten to the question so far. So to take us on this journey then, how do we go from trapeze artist to business, 10 companies, and to business owner? Take us on this journey, if you will.
Well, let's see. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. I say I kind of came out of the womb as a business owner. My father built the largest chain of women's clothing stores in the United States starting in 1955 with my grandfather. And they won the second store in a poker game in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's where I was born. And so I was around my dad and just watching him build his dream and seeing his passion and his love for business. I never heard him complain. He absolutely loved his work. And I thought, I want to do that. And so I really had this energy growing up, like if you want something, go create it yourself. And so when I was 19, I started my first business, which was greeting cards for companies. And then by the time I was 25, it had evolved in a full service advertising and public relations firm.
Interesting. So, but it wasn't clothing. Did you ever work in clothing? You just said, no, I don't want to do clothing. I just want my own thing.
I just like to wear the clothing. Which, I definitely have, my little fashion addiction kind of thing. But no, I just, growing up in that, I learned so much, but I really wanted to do my own thing. And so in this first business, I really had no idea what the heck I was doing. I just made it up as I went along. People would say, do you do brochures? Do you do radio? Do you do TV? And I would just hear my dad saying, if someone asks you to do something and you feel like it's worthwhile, just say yes and then figure out how to do it.
I like that because that feels like a very familiar thing to me for sure. Now, I have a question though. You said you had no idea what you were doing with your first business, but have you run into any entrepreneur who did know what they were doing when they first started? I'm just wondering.
No, I mean, how do you know really, right?
Exactly.
Until you do it. Absolutely. But, I say that because I think that stops so many people from putting their dreams out there. They feel like that they do need to know.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're actually bringing up something that's really like, where does that come from in your opinion? Like, why do we feel like we got to know how to do something or have it be perfect before we even begin? Where does that come from in your opinion?
I think people have an inherent fear of being embarrassed, making a fool out of themselves, failure, and they just want to get it right.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. Now, I'm going to assume, and I'm making an assumption here, just that point right there was the part of the reason for your first book, Blast Off. Yes?
Definitely. And, in the early days of the work that I'm doing now, which is mentoring business owners to scale their company, my team and I work with business owners all over the world. But in the early days of this, we were working with startups and helping them, get off the ground, blast off, right? And so I did see so many business owners struggle with just taking that step or feeling like they had to have the plan and know exactly what they wanted to do. But what I know for sure is the plan comes in the doing.
Now, for those that are listening to you right now and go, I know there's someone who heard that and went, huh? What do you mean? I can't do unless I plan it. So could you elaborate a little bit more for them?
Yeah. So when you have a product or service, you really just need to put it out there. I say, don't worry, be crappy instead of don't worry, be happy. And because your audience will tell you, this part is great, but why don't you improve on this? Or have you thought of, helping us fill our needs over here? And so it's an involvement and you can perfect it along the way. Otherwise, it's just going to stay in your head and it's all fantasy. And you could have the best plan, as you know, and then put it out there and you've waited all this time and then it doesn't work.
Correct. Yeah. That is actually one of the things that makes it difficult for me to even want to plan is the fact that I know that from the time period everything changes, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. The moment you start going, you think, hey, I'm going to go this way. And this is how we're going to do it, but then it changes. And I know there's got to be a group of people out there who would say the same thing to you right now, Allison. They'd say, that's why I don't plan at all. It doesn't stay the same. So what advice would you have for them?
Well, I think that, you have gifts inside of you, right? And if you don't put them out there, and you don't get started, then to me, it's like the saddest thing of all because, that's really your purpose is to share them with the world. And so, but, I think this whole idea of perfection and getting it right really keeps people small. And when you're talking about scaling your business, really taking it to the next level, it's really about getting out of our head and doing things differently.
Okay, so let's talk to that. Let's do that. Let's talk to that person who has maybe started right now, and I'm assuming this is the genesis for the second book. Is now that they've started, and maybe they're at 5 and they're looking to go to 6. Maybe they're at 6 looking to go to 7. Maybe they're at 7 looking to go to 8 figures or more, and they're trying to figure out, how do I make this bigger? I see that we've got something good. Where do you see most entrepreneurs typically, failing to scale?
So there are a few things that keep business owners stuck. It's like you could be making some traction, you're making some headway, you're making some decent money, and you're really trying to get beyond that obstacle and really multiply your revenue. But if you are using the same mindset that you started your business with to scale, or the same marketing strategies or the same operational strategies, and expecting to have a different outcome, it's not going to work. We are creatures of habit. And, when we tell business owners, you pretty much have to rebuild your company from this higher level, they have a really hard time doing that. Because when you start your business, you're passionate, you might be doing it because you want to make some extra money, maybe you're in survival mode. And if you're going to scale, you really have to be willing to take the big leaps, kind of like on the trapeze. And you have to let go of these old habits. You can't micromanage your team anymore, right? You have to be willing to let go. You have to be willing to even replace yourself. And that's really scary for a business owner.
So in the time that you have been able to work with entrepreneurs, et cetera, take us through the journey. What was it like for someone, or how did they know it was time to scale? And more importantly, how did they know that, what steps to take? I mean, how do you guide someone through that process? Like, what's first? Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do, get some of your time back, is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary.
Well, you hit a wall when, especially if you're the one providing the product or service, because there's only 24 hours in a day. And so you're working night and day, and there's only so much money you can make. Or you're going on vacation and your business stops. Or you have demand coming in, but you can't fulfill it, and you're literally turning business away. So you've got to rebuild your model. So for instance, if it's just you providing the service, obviously that's not a scalable model. And so you've got to train other people to do what you do. And this is where so many business owners get stuck, because they feel like it has to be me, or my clients only want to work with me. And really that's our ego getting in the way, because the truth is that your clients just want to be taken care of. They want the support, right? They want their questions answered. And so you've got to be willing to step back and train other people to do what you do. So if you're an accountant, you've got to train a team of accountants to work within the framework that you provide. So it's still your genius. It's still, your flair. But now you've got to duplicate that. And so that's one of the ways to scale. There are many, many ways to scale, and I'm happy to give some other strategies with that.
Well, let's stop with this one though, because you've hit on one that I think is by far the most challenging. Because that's a completely different skill set. I mean, I may technically know that you used accounting, so I may know how to do the accounting part, but now you're asking me to manage people. Those are two different things.
Correct.
I mean, it makes sense that there would be an immense amount of fear sitting right there because that's such a different skill set. How on earth? I mean, but yet I may want to scale my business now. You're asking me to become, for lack of a better way of putting it, a people person?
Well, exactly. I mean, scaling really means to duplicate and multiply. And so you have to be willing to move it beyond you. I mean, I see 5 clear phases in scaling the business.
Okay.
And so I think this will make it more clear for you and anyone listening right now. Mm-hmm. So phase 1, it's you. You're the solopreneur. I call that the seeker. So you're passionate. You've got this, you think you've got a vision. You're putting it out there, but you're doing everything. Phase 2 is I call the pioneer. You're getting your hands dirty. You're developing this new path. You're getting clear on your target market. But you have maybe a small team, maybe a bookkeeper, an assistant, and a marketing person. Okay. But you're still approving everything going in and out of the business. And a lot of business owners get stuck here. Phase 3, I call the ringleader, because it's a circus. It is a circus. In phase 3, and you start to get more clear on your vision. You see the potential of your company, but you're starting to build teams. You might have a sales team, a marketing team, an admin team, but you've got people in the wrong roles. You really don't know how to be a leader. You're still kind of telling people what to do. You're micromanaging everybody. You're driving them crazy, and there's a Gallup study that says that 70% of employees are disengaged. And generally in phase 3, you probably have a lot of those 70% working for your company. But there's hope because, you kind of have to go through this phase. It's like crawling and then walking and then running. And then you start to learn how to be a leader. You start to learn how to inspire your team to get on board with your vision. And that's so crucial. And that's when you move into phase 4, which I call the co-creator. And that's when you're working with your team. And you're both building this thing together. And they're getting excited about it. And they're passionate. And they're taking ownership. And they're asking important questions like, how do we build this thing? How do we increase the profits? How do we have a better customer experience? And then you move into phase 5, which is the final phase. And I call that the visionary. And that's when you start to step back because your team has got this. And, obviously it's not an overnight process, but I think it's helpful to really understand those phases and know where you're at in the process. Some people want to stay in phase 2, and that's perfectly fine. It's great. But if you're really wanting to scale, you've got to be willing to build a team and to step back and even kind of shut your mouth when you feel like you've got to give your 2 cents all the time. It's hard for a business owner.
Yeah, no, we're never opinionated, not at all. Or it doesn't happen at all. So but let me ask you this question: when it comes down to it, what have you seen as because I know someone's thinking it, because you said it doesn't happen overnight, but I know someone said, because I was thinking, well, how long does it take, Allison?
Well, some people could do this process within even 3 years. It could go fast. It just depends. But sometimes companies can grow too quickly. And if you don't take the time to get your systems down and, your vision is going to change along the way, when we rush things, it can grow really fast and then fall apart. So that's happened many times. And patience is hard for a business owner. Um, like we want it yesterday. But what I know, and I've built a lot of companies, is that the longer you can stay with something and the deeper you can dive with that one focus, in scale, growing and scaling that business, the more sustainable it will be for years to come, depending on whether you want to continue to run it, as long as you can, or if you want to sell it, or you want to pass it on to your family.
Totally understood. I mean, the passing it on to the family is probably one of the most important parts for me personally. Being able to make sure that I leave something for my children's children has kind of been on my mind for forever. Now, when it comes down to it, when you're working with a potential entrepreneur, how does one know? Well, like what questions would an entrepreneur be asking themselves right now, or maybe in the past, that says, oh, you know what? I'm ready to scale, or maybe scaling is my solution. How does one know that they're ready for such a thing?
Well, when you just keep hitting a wall and you're frustrated and you want to get into that 7-figure, multiple 7-figure, 8-figure, then it's going to be time to scale. Otherwise, you're going to be chained to your business. You're working 24/7 and you have no life, and I've been there. I mean, that's really in that early business that I had. I grew really quickly, took on big clients like Ben and Jerry's and Supercuts, and I was working, constantly, sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning. And I ended up having a horrible car accident from the stress of it all. And so,
how do you mean? Were you working while driving?
No, I was. I was creating a radio commercial for a client of mine, and then realized that I was late for picking up my daughter from daycare, and so she was really little. So I was racing to get her, and pulled up into the driveway of the daycare, jumped out of the car because I wasn't paying attention, and the car started rolling back, and I jumped in the car trying to stop it, and the car basically ran over me. So,
wow, got it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. That's one painful lesson.
Oh, it was, that was, if you don't wake up after a car runs over you, I don't know what to say, but that was my big wake up call.
No doubt. So, okay. Now, there's something else that you also mentioned earlier that I wanted to tap into, because I think, yes, you've been given a unique skill set by, again, being a trapeze artist previously. I think it gives you an edge specifically here in business in general. And because I've always said artists and athletes have an edge, in my opinion. And you mentioned about being present. How necessary has that been for you in terms of your business journey, and for those that, you've worked with and coached and mentored?
I think that business owners can be really hard on themselves. And we're always looking for the next thing, which is great because, you're building something. But I also think it's important to recognize the accomplishments that you have made. Like every day you're accomplishing something, right? You're getting out there, you're the warrior on the front lines, you're being vulnerable, right? And you are achieving things. So if we can't recognize that along the way and applaud ourselves if nobody else is, what's the point? Because you should be having fun. You should be enjoying the process.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because in this scaling process that you are referring to, it doesn't happen quickly, overnight, etc. How do I gauge my progress and actually allow myself to feel good about it? Because it can feel challenging. It's like, I'm not at 8 figures yet, so therefore I haven't made any progress. I mean, we can, yes, judge our progress improperly and unfairly, but how how should we measure it then? Because this is not going to be an easy task if you're asking us to change mindset and tactics and just it's literally, like you said, rebuilding.
Well, this is when it's super important to have a mentor. And, I have always worked with a coach. I continue to today. And this is what we do with our clients because, we say new level, new devil. I mean, every time you're trying to climb to the next level in your business, you're going to face things that you've never faced before. You're going to have big decisions that if, and the CEO becomes the bottleneck of the company, if you're not moving forward with those decisions, you are slowing the growth. And so you want to surround yourself with people that have done it. They've been there before. Otherwise, I've had clients that come to me that have been stuck in phase 2 or phase 3 for 10 years. And, a company can die there. And I don't mean to sound like morbid, but, you can just so get stuck because we are so used to doing it the way that we have that it feels very scary to try new things. We are so afraid things are going to slip through the cracks. What if we upset a client? What if we, what if we lose the deal if our employee makes a mistake? And, I have a client that came to me. She and her husband had been running a cold storage construction company for like 12 years. And they were stuck at about $500,000 for at least 3-4 years, which, that's a decent amount of money. But for a construction company, this is a company
that sounds very low for a construction company.
Right, it's small. And so what we did was really help them get out of their own way, build a team, and, learn to step back and delegate, put systems in place. And within 2 years, they've gone to $6 million.
That sounds more like it. Exactly. Okay, I get it, and I like it. It's just sometimes those new things, they sound great, but what it takes to get there, sometimes we don't know. We just know that it sounds like that would be the thing. And I've often told people, don't desire $1 million for the sake of getting $1 million, but because of whom it will make of you along the way. And that's what it sounds like you're out there doing, is you're helping entrepreneurs become better people so that their businesses can, support more people. And I totally like that. Now, for those that have listened this far and are just loving exactly what's going on, what's going to be the best way for them to either grab a copy of the book or find out more about what you guys got going on?
Absolutely. So you can go to scaleorfail.com and you can grab the book. We have all kinds of downloads and gifts that go along with the book as well. So scaleorfail.com is where they can grab the book. And then if people want to learn more about me and the work that we do, you can go to AllisonMaslan.com. And you can learn all about our mentoring that we do and, all that good stuff. So
excellent. Now, as we wind down, I've got another question for you that I really want to ask because I'm curious to hear what your response is going to be. So let's pretend that there's a person who's listening right now, and they are standing at what I like to call the precipice of decision. Or maybe another way of thinking about it is they're standing in front of the superhero outfit store. They are ready to pick up their cape and tights, and they're going to make this thing happen. However, like I know, that when we're standing at these moments of decision, oftentimes we have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice. And that voice loves to remind us of what we can't do, how it didn't work. And yeah, sure, you said you wanted, 7 figures. You said that last year too. Is it really going to work this time? Or are you going to quit? And for some people, they're actually related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time they're actually going to follow through. And they're going to follow through and do exactly what you say in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
Well, there is a saying that I always say, and I would keep this in your mind, write it down so that you remember. And that is, make decisions from where you're going, not from where you're at.
Ooh, say that again, because I think someone who was walking their dog or washing dishes probably they want to catch that one more time. That was good.
Make decisions from where you're going, not from where you're at. And what I mean by that is, if you are listening to this and saying, well, that sounds great, Allison, I'd love to build a team. I don't have the money to do that, or I don't have the time. You're making a decision based on what you see right in front of you. But to really scale and to take the leaps, you've got to pretend that you're already at the place you want to be. Like it's already happened. And let's say you're there right now. You're sitting on that mountaintop and you're looking back. You're already there. What kind of decisions would you make? Then who would you surround yourself with? Who would you pick up the phone and call? And it's amazing what happens when you just start taking the actions. The people show up, the money shows up, the support shows up, but you have to be willing to take the leap.
And it's amazing how that's true, but you've probably put it in the best succinct number. That phrase was like, yes, that's the best way to put that. I've never heard anyone say it that way. I definitely appreciate, again, your wisdom is coming to bear in what you say and how you guys are out there doing it. And I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge, your insight, and your wisdom here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Oh, this has been fantastic. Thanks for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means scaleorfail.com. That means AllisonMaslin.com. That means go do something right now. Why? Because you need to take one measurable, observable step towards that next level that you know you've wanted. You've thought about it for a while and you've been waiting for a reason to say, yes, now is the time. And well, now is your time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.